Yeah, so guys, I want to say thank you. I'm going to get this webinar started. We've actually had some technical issues, so I'm actually doing a re-record. So for those that were live, thank you for attending. I really appreciated it. It's a bit different to what happened because we had a few technical glitches and didn't get recorded. So yeah, so I want to thank everyone. Look, to me, the most important thing in life, besides my family, is your time and attention. So I really want to say thank you for you giving me your time and attention for this year and be willing to spend the next 45 minutes with us to give me the opportunity to let you know about what I've got going on in the future. And if there's any way we can help you and deliver services to you or any friends or family or anything like that. So I just really want to appreciate, thank you for that opportunity. Now, at the end of the webinar, we're actually going to explain about our discovery sessions and things like that. And for attending today's webinar, you will get a special link that's going to give you access to more time. So if you do want to book a discovery session and have a conversation about a project that you got going on or any way that we can help you in some projects and stuff like that, you will, if you do decide to book a discovery session and go ahead, that you'll get discounting and extra time to say thank you. And we really appreciate you attending today. So basically my intention this here is to run through, we've been in a unique situation over the last 14 years, what we've been doing. When I first started in this industry, basically my intention was to help transition the world to more of a renewable energy future. And what is that going to take? So when I talk about off-grid, it's actually, for me, the way I think about it over the years, it's been a bit of a marketing ploy because everyone thinks, oh, going off-grid's the best thing for you and want to call up and we want to go off-grid. It's actually not always the best solution for everyone's gone off-grid. I'm a big believer that if the grid's available, use it. Don't get rid of it, because one of the big problem when you go off grid, if the grid's available and you turn off the grid, you can actually share any of your excess solar. And that's one thing that really opened my eyes up when I moved to Northern Rivers. Someone pointed out to me that, Mike, and it was actually a perfect scenario when he told me, he said, your neighbor, she might not like solar. Where my house in Sydney, the lady hated renewables and thought it was all a crock. And she didn't realize that while she was out living, well, I couldn't actually do this back in Sydney, but my system couldn't feed back to the grid back in Sydney. But if my system could feed back to the grid, what she wouldn't have realized is that my system would have been feeding back to the grid and actually covering her energy usage. And it's something that when I designed the system in Sydney to go off grid, and that was a long time ago, the technology was very different, that I couldn't feed and share my excess solar. What would happen once my batteries were full, it would turn off. And then over time, we redesigned the system, did a few things, and we got it to a situation where we could feed back to the grid before we left that property. So yeah, something to think about there. Now, with the technology today, we're suggesting if it's available, use it. Don't get rid of it. There's some really good products and software, which I just mentioned now, called getlocalvolts.com. What that allows you to do, so if you go to www.getlocalvolts.com, you can sign up to them. It's a different retailer, but it's a peer-to-peer energy program. So it allows you to sell and buy your energy from your friends, your family. So it's up to you of what you actually charge for your excess solar. Example for me, I give my solar away to my mum for free. So of a day, I've got loads of excess solar. If mum decides to use it, she doesn't have to pay for it. And then other businesses I've got here in Lismore where I sell my solar for 20 cents a kilowatt hour to make some money back. So that's how I've got my system set up at home, my new house up here in the Northern Rivers. Now, a bit of history about myself, what set up my method to the madness and all this sort of stuff. Back in 2003, I had a company in Parramatta. I had 350 sales staff working for me. And I joined a small group of business owners in the Parramatta City Council that we were contracted to audit businesses for energy usage. So to really help business owners how to save money on energy usage. So with that there was a lot of different things I learned over the years when I first started that there of energy efficiency. And it sort of led into my next business that I got involved in was between 2009 and 2012, I built a business selling caravan, motorhome, four-wheel drive, mainly more four-wheel drive solar and battery systems. And we specialized in that. And we did that for a couple of years before I sold that business. And that was a really good challenge because we had very small roof spaces where people wanted everything to run, including the kitchen sink on a weekend away in a caravan or a four-wheel drive. So that was quite fun. And what I learned from all that there is after that, I sold that business and had to go on gardening leave and I couldn't really compete in the industry. So I went on a trip. My wife and I, we grabbed a solar panel. And to be honest with you, it's actually one of the first solar panels I owned for my own personal four-wheel drive. I was never a big believer in them back in the day. Not that I didn't believe in solar, but when you used to go away for camping for the weekend, I would just charge my batteries at home. While the car drove all the way out there, it would charge the battery. You'd pull up under the trees for the weekend, spend the weekend. Some of the times coming home on a Sunday, my fridge would turn off in my car because the battery was too flat. You'd be driving along, you hear the thing go and stop. So yeah, I'd never really put solar panels up when I was going bush on the weekends. It was one of those things. It was just another thing to do. So that's what we sold and we did. And what I learned basically after doing our honeymoon and traveling around Australia, I met a couple of crazy guys that did all off-grid stuff. And it really opened my eyes. And for me, I really learned that all the stuff we'd been doing in an urban for off-grid caravan sort of lifestyle was the same thing for houses. It was all the same products, the same technology, just bigger. And it really led into that urban environment is what I really enjoy because you're dealing with a small space. And for me, when I took my house off grid or tried to, I got 3 or 4 people to come around and give me a quote. And they all said, mate, you can't do it. You can't do what you want to do. We'll connect a solar system up. And no one wanted to entertain my idea. And once I met these crazy off-grid guys and they really educated me on, okay, Mike, what it is your roof space was not big enough. So that really opened my eyes up that a roof space wasn't big enough. And, that house there, the top, that's my house in Sydney. We took it off grid with 3 kilowatts of solar hot water, a 400-watt wind turbine, and 12 kilowatt hours of battery storage. I went on a real mission. There is actually a video on the internet and YouTube, our YouTube channel. We might link it below of where I spent the best money to take the house off grid. It wasn't putting solar in. So, and we retrofitted that house and took it off grid. Now, that's when I did my first house in the middle of Sydney, and then we moved to the Northern Rivers. We took my second house off grid. The picture you see below is actually V2 of the Bat Cave. It's actually probably V3. I think I had a 1 kilowatt system when I first moved in. Then I put a 13 kilowatt system up properly. The 1 kilowatt was temporarily while we got things going. I actually just laid the panels on the roof and run the cables down to an inverter. It actually wasn't that much that I did with it, to be honest. Wasn't bolted down, nothing. The panels just sat flat on the roof. So we'll call that V1. V2 was a 13 kilowatt solar system, and this is V3. We'll call this V3. In the middle of town, we live on 600 square meters in the middle of town there. And we have a huge amount of shading issues. We have electric cars. So we put like a 25 kilowatt solar system up. And I think we've got about 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage at the moment. It changes all the time because I swap things over and that sort of stuff. But I think we're running about 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage. If I really wanted to be self-sufficient, honestly, in this house here, I would need about 30 kilowatt hours of battery storage just to be able to plug the cars in. One of my cars, I can't charge every day because it's out getting used. So things like that. So we just need a bit more battery storage to charge the extra car. So until 2022, I run an off-grid solar company helping people design and install off-grid solar systems. So in the past 5 years, technology has changed so much, and I've been involved from people buying a block of land through to turn their lights on in their properties. And, from when I first moved to the Northern Rivers, we'll start with there in 2017, it's probably a good time. That was really the turning point that from a design point of view, going off-grid went from, like, you have to have gas, cooking, gas hot water booster or solar hot water. You can't have an electric oven. That was probably really about where the year changed with the technology, where the lithium batteries come in and pretty much come to saying, like, you can do whatever you want. It really comes down to your budget and what you want to do. So you can go off grid with literally very little compromises, probably no compromises really. If you've got the money, you can do whatever you want and anywhere you like to. So solar's getting that efficient these days that pretty much you can be self-sufficient in the middle of the town. I've got customers that have 5 kilowatt off-grid solar inverters. They have 10 kilowatt hours of battery storage, not huge solar systems, and they own a Tesla and they're completely off-grid. So it can be done. So even in an urban environment with small roof spaces, solar and batteries are getting so efficient these days where, batteries are a lot smaller. So you put more in, in a townhouse or something like that. And same as with the panels, you can put a lot more wattage on a roof than what you could before, where efficiency really in an off-grid environment doesn't really matter. Put a big shed up. It's quite simple. So, but it's created demand for people to transition to renewable energy, and people want to do things with that I'm doing the right thing for the planet feeling. So it's a very big thing that a lot of our customers over the years have wanted to do. So it's also created a headache, basically, for regulators that can't keep up with the technology advancements and stuff like that. So that's actually created a real big issue in the industry. It's also attracted a new type of customer and consumer to the lifestyle. You know, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, even the 90s, people that went off grid would live in caravans, small little properties, whatever. The solar was really expensive and they didn't really have, you know, we had a couple of staff that worked for us over the years that, you know, when they were kids growing up, their mum would take their battery. They had 2 batteries at home, just 12-volt car batteries. They'd take one to work and charge it during the day while the other one ran anything at home, and they'd swap that the next day and swap batteries over because it was so expensive to live off grid, but they lived off grid and they did it out there in the bush. So it's attracted that new type of customer where, you know, there's a lot more people these days willing to live off grid because you can have your electric car, you can have your cake and eat it too, basically. It just depends on how much money you've got. So yeah, there's all that sort of stuff that you can do. And we're really at a point for us as a human society is we just really want to design and think about how we want design our renewable energy future. It's not that we can't do it, it's how we want to design it. And that's what leads into what we want to do moving forward as a business. Now, what really opened my eyes up back in 2018, I did a face-to-face off-grid workshop in Jordan. We had 50 students attend. It was actually one of their largest permaculture design courses. So they had a permaculture design course, and then they had 60 students in that there. And then we had an off-grid course as well attached to that. So 50 out of the 60 students that turn up decided to do the off-grid course. So it went from, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that big to a huge off-grid course. And it blew my mind of all these people from around the world. And a lot of people actually attended the workshop purely to do the solar part of it and just decided to stay for the PDC, which is great. So the demand's there for a lot of education and people really want to understand and learn about this stuff. Yeah, go into the Greening the Desert project. There's a lot of really good videos on the internet. If you jump on YouTube and search the Greening the Desert site, it really opened my eyes up about building and building materials. Now, we're getting some costs done on this property here. It was built in 9 weeks. So it really opened my eyes up to how things can be done a lot faster, a lot more sustainable material. So this place is actually built straw bale externally and mud brick on the inside. And this house is, if you get on YouTube and search it, we'll put the link in the description below and actually have a look at this property. A really amazing place. It was built in 9 weeks. So the video you're seeing on there is actually a 9-week build, which is pretty crazy. So just great. And what I want to explain and sort of share with you is a unique situation that we've had with all this experience. So we've been involved in people buying the block of land all the way through to turning the lights on. And over that time, we've met a lot of people and we've got a lot of unique experience because what we've seen is people building properties and what they've built with and how energy efficient those homes have actually been. So this is a property that we were involved in Vaucluse. The house is already built. I just want to use it as an example of the data that we actually got to use and pull off that property and see how energy efficient it actually is. So it's pretty good. So this house is, you know, Vaucluse, high end, really expensive home. I don't think they really spared anything on the budget when they built the property. But we made it us when they contacted us with nothing to do with the build and said, hey, we want to go off grid. I was like, yep, you can do it with this. So the system's twice the size what you see there as panels. From where we're facing, that photo was took, there's a whole heap of panels there. I think they're 8 kilowatts of solar on the roof. They've actually got 5 kilowatt hours of battery storage because gas cooking and really much the solar system overnight, the batteries just run lights, TVs, and fridges. So it's really not a huge amount of energy overnight. So this leads to one of the biggest hurdles that we've had over the years with trying to bring all together and put everyone together and make everything happen. Just going to mute that. Trying to bring everyone together to make everything happen basically has been a real challenge over the years. And for us, we've learned and built a lot of relationships over the years. You know, give an example, my house, we did magnesium oxide board in the house, and my brother's a gyprocker. He said it's really easy to set. He's done loads of them, and we really struggled in the Northern Rivers to find someone that actually set it. And we had a few people come out and quote, they don't want to be involved in it. And the people that did actually come out and set it at the end of the day said, there's no warranty in this. I can't trust my work. And it all cracked and that sort of stuff. So it wasn't fun trying to do that sort of stuff. You spend all this money on this amazing house and build it. And then, you know, the tradesmen at the end of the day won't warrant the work and do that sort of stuff. So that was a big hurdle. And the other big hurdle that we've faced over the years and I see a lot in developments, and this is where we want to change the game for. When someone develops a property, like a builder, they're building it most of the time. They're developing a house and they're developing it to sell and make a profit. So they're really not focused on the energy efficiency and trying to make that home as passive solar and design as possible, because they don't have no care for the running costs in the future. So that's been a challenge we've had working with over the years, working with builders, because they're so, even if they are building a bespoke home for a customer, they're still in that mindset of, look, I do this one, it works all the time, I don't need to change it. Everyone else has been happy with it. Why do you want double glazing windows? Things like that. So that's been a real challenge over the years. So this is a Dixon home build, and we want to show you some of the data that we've collated and where the service that we can offer can really help people out with this. So this is the Dixon homes. The customers themselves did change a few windows around and moved a few things to make the house more energy efficient when it comes to wind, and open the windows and that sort of stuff for the breeze and stuff through the house. But these guys here, insulation they put in, and we did the solar system. They contacted us basically before they started the build, and we had a good conversation about some things to do and things to work on. And this is a 4-bedroom electric home. It's really good to see that data that they use 42 kilowatt hours from the generator. So from a financial point of view, if you don't understand what kilowatt hours are, they're selling out $25 from diesel to run their off-grid property for the year. That's pretty amazing. 4-bedroom house. They got a couple of kids, and they just do whatever. They watch a load of TV, Netflix. They use the aircon whenever they want. So a really good chat with these customers to find out, have they been trying to save as much energy as possible? And they're like, we just turn anything on. We got over that when we first started. And that's the thing that, people will try and save and not reduce energy. And you just learn to live with your solar system. And these guys are pretty much, these days, they just turn the aircon on and do whatever they want, whenever they want. Okay, cool. This is one of my houses I like to call. It's got everything but a spare bedroom. So it's a 1-bedroom home, everything but a spare bedroom. The off-grid property. These guys have underfloor heating. They've got a spa, or maybe it's a sauna. They've got a hot box around the corner. They've got the swimming pool, which is heated and all that sort of stuff. So these guys actually use a lot more energy from the diesel generator. And honestly, I think it's some settings. I think I'm going to talk to the customer about this when I was pulling this data and see. It could be just his periodic run that runs the generator. And, sometimes we set generators to run for a minimum of an hour a week. That's all it could be, by the looks of the energy. But anyway, the cost of doing that, what they're doing, whether they're using the energy or it's just a run time once a week to make sure it runs properly. They're using 40 liters of diesel a year, which is about $100 or $60 from the grid. And now, if both these customers were connected to the grid, they'd actually probably be getting paid from the network because they'd actually share their excess solar. The problem with being off grid is when your batteries are full, your panels turn off. And if you don't use it, you lose that excess energy. So something to think about. And that's why it's really important that most of the systems we've designed over the years, we try and design systems that by 11 a.m., batteries are full on a good day. So if it's a bad day, come that 2, 3 o'clock, the system sort of charged. That's sort of how it works. So if you're grid connected, that excess solar from 11 till 3, 4, 5 o'clock, you can share with extra people. And that's what I do with my Get Local Volts program, the getlocalvolts.com, is I sell it to a business, my excess solar, I give it to mum and do things like that with it. So something to think about. And if I wasn't connected to the grid, I couldn't do that and share my excess solar. And my property's in the middle of town, so the grid was there. With these guys, where that property there is, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars probably to run a transformer to get the power all the way up to that property, of how far it away is from the services. So, it's one of those things that off-grid would be cheaper and more feasible for this project than trying to sell energy back to the grid and do that stuff. So over the years, being involved in all these building projects and helping people buy and acquire properties and things like that, we've developed a whole team of 18 experts that can help offer services more to our customers if you're looking to do things like that. For us, our intention is to change the game when it comes to delivering low energy homes. So we really want to help and move forward to, we've been designing off-grid solar systems for years. We really want to get involved and hold people's hands and how to design properties and help people design their property from the start to the finish, how to make it as most energy efficient as possible, because we have that data. We've seen the builds over the years of what works and what doesn't. Now, so some services from this. So pretty much we can offer consultancy services from, buying your block of land to having it completed and having the lights and that sort of stuff turned on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually share a program with you and give you a bit of ideas and some stuff on this here. And I'm going to jump over to here. We're going to share this tab instead. Perfect. Okay. So this is a property here that we were lucky enough we were involved in, literally from when I had nothing there. We've been involved in this property for a long time. We've actually done a lot of the solar system in this property. This is an MO, so it was basically split up to a multiple occupancy. Bit of a challenge to do these days. We're actually currently working on one in the mid-north coast, actually where I grew up. We found a block of land that we can actually put 8 dwellings on, and we're going to, basically the intention of that property there is we're going to put all the infrastructure in, so the water, the access, the water, and maybe some structures, some sheds. There is a house on the property already. Now, with that property, what we plan to do on that there is then from there is sell off the blocks of land to certain clients that we can help walk through the whole process and help them find the A-team experts to build the house that they want out of the materials that they want, help them find the installer for the solar system and everything in between with that sort of stuff there. So that is our plan with that property down the mid-north coast. Oh, I've lost my mouse. Here we go. Just going to hide that stuff there. So yeah, so this is a great property, just a great program. We're going to give you some things, just some ideas, and it does a lot. And we don't have much time to run through this webinar, so I'll just give you some just quick things and stories I've had over the years where if we would have had this technology, we could have helped save people money. We've had a couple of off-grid customers, or one in particular. I'll tell you this story. They purchased a block of land, they got it, they built their house on it. We did everything. We took some cool drone photos and did the property. It was all good and that sort of stuff. And then a few years later, the customer had to have the place surveyed. So they got it surveyed. And I'm just going to use this as an example, just the graphic details. When they had it surveyed, their neighbor's house was actually on their block of land. So the boundary, just because the way the hills and everything run, the neighbor's block of land was really hilly over here and he didn't want to build there. So he built over here in his neighbor's block of land, and he put his fence over here and cut him off. So now that's in a really ugly legal battle. And, the customer's quite happy that if he wants to stay there, give us some money and they'll move on with life. But he doesn't want to pay any money because he's like, well, I've been here forever, want to do that. So for me personally, it's something I wouldn't want to be involved in. And this program, this software could help that, because before pre-purchasing, so the Australian government 3 or 4 years ago had all of Australia LiDAR'd. So what that basically means, a plane flew over and did all the contour layers and everything on a property on the whole of Australia. So it's all been detailed, mapped out, and all to millimeter accurate information. So a lot of this stuff's access available to us now, that we can get access to seeing that stuff and buying it. You got to pay for it. It's all paid subscription, get the money back for it all. So we could have used this program to see where the boundaries were. If we really want to double check, actually over here, this is one that basically it's done from the plane, and it's not as expensive to buy this program compared to where if you really wanted to and said, nah, I want to get a detailed contour surveyor to go out to the property. Now, if you can see the prices on the screen there, it's more for an urban environment. If you were doing something at the back of New South Wales somewhere, the cost would be different. And this is something that it's not us. We don't charge fees and stuff for that stuff there. That there is more from getting a surveyor and stuff to go out. So this program has a whole list of surveyors around Australia that we can get in touch with to get the property surveyed if you really wanted that detailed information. Now, a couple of other things on this property here and using the program that could help pre-purchase blocks of land, or even if you've already got your block of land, is contours. And like I said, we have access to this data where you can see your contours. So basically, the red basically is the further and further away from the water and flood zones and stuff like that. So yeah, the reds are further away. Also with contours, if you don't understand contours, the closer they are together, the steeper the land is, and the further away apart, the flatter it is. Now, give you an example, this house here, the program can also, if you just look at this here, it can actually measure this to a millimeter, but I'm just going to use the lines. Pretty much from there to there is about 2 meters, and over there is about 2.5 meter full. So across that block of land, even though if you go to that property, it actually looks quite flat, it's still a 2.5 meter full. And you could actually work out how much earthworks or money you require to spend to move that dirt around to make your property more usable where you want to build and things like that. So something to think about that can really help you save money. So it actually does have a few other things which for some reason when I'm recording screens, it can't work. We'll go back here, designs. Ooh. So it actually tell you the flood zones, and this is actually really good because we have experienced the floods. Here we go, affected. Normally in a bushfire, when I'm not recording the screens, for some reason the program won't record this when we're recording a screen, but actually can show you the bushfire rated areas, but also can show you flood affected areas. And actually, after the Lismore floods, we looked at this property. It's actually pretty accurate that the flood come through around this area here from the LiDAR, but it actually did go in that shed there, which the flood didn't show. But like I said, this information here is just from detailed information that we had from 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a lot closer, even though it was a freak flood. This information from this map was a lot closer than what anything else the council had, which is pretty cool. So it did just go into the shed, but in reality, and that's the other thing as well, when the plane flies, that the way it takes the photo and the picture of this stuff here, if it's on a funny angle or whatever, it could put the contour maps on the satellite imagery. So if we go here to this one here, they're a lot more accurate when you're looking at these maps than the satellite, because the satellite imagery has been uploaded and depends what angle that the plane took it. But they're pretty accurate. And if you're really wanting the details to specific pinpoint measurement, that's where you'd want to send a surveyor at anyway. So, and double check everything to make sure that all these lines do line up with the imagery and things like that. So, so that's some things there with that property and the program. So it can floods and really help you save some money, you know, if you're going to buy a property, where the flood levels and stuff could be on those properties with things like that on that there. It also has a load of stuff in here that literally, if you are looking to do a design and build and things like that, it shows all the permissible builder areas. So from boundaries, I'll get rid of the contours. So it shows you where you can and can't build properties. So this here is like we've put a dwelling there. It shows, okay, we're out of the exclusion zones. The bell rating is unsure, which is for the fire rating and things like that. So this can give you a really good estimate, either your property or if you're looking to buy a property, of all the things. Okay, well, I can build here, build there, and do all that sort of stuff. So I can really provide it, and does a lot more things. Like I said, we could actually measure to the millimeter on this property from the LiDAR reports of how much the fall is over the land. You can work out concrete. You know, if you want to put a driveway in, we can actually measure the contours of the property to say, I want to run my driveway around there. What's that earthworks and stuff going to cost? So if you're buying a property, it can really help you save some money and go, well, it's going to cost an absolute fortune to get some earthworks in, or it's a pretty good level road around the contour to get to where I want to put the property, and so on and so on. So something to think about. And I'll just show you from a solar point of view for this place here is we can then upload those maps into a solar program. We can help design a system. And we did all this. This was great with this system, this house. I'll show you where we started. That's what we started with in this house here. And we actually loaded some photos and stuff up. And from the detailed map, we loaded some of these images up. We loaded some of these images up here. I'm just going to we loaded some of these images up here, and I'll pop over this program. I'll share this one instead now. You might have missed this. Okay, so I'll just quickly share that because I didn't share that properly before. We started with this here, and we loaded some of those other images I just showed you into this program, and we could put the roofs, the house and stuff on that one there. And then now this is the point that we're at. This is just satellite imagery I've been using, pulling from this here. We uploaded our own image here once it was finished from the Can I Build program, and this must have been taken before November because the solar panels are not on the house. But anyway, what this allowed us to do, before the house was built, we sat down with the customer, we worked out how much energy they wanted, how much they required, allowed us to build this, create a really good detailed system. Okay, well, the panels are going to look like this at the end of the day on the house. It's going to produce on average about 60 kilowatt hours a day in summer, on average per day, and about 41 kilowatt hours per day in the middle of winter. So they gave us a really good rough estimate of how much the system's going to, it's not rough, it's pretty accurate of how much the system's going to produce. So that customer knew, okay, well, we need to make the house bigger, or we're going to put more solar panels over here, and so on and so on, or we need to put a bigger shed. A lot of our customers we work with over the years, we've been really lucky that we just put a shed up, we fill the shed full of solar panels, and then everything goes in the shed. And normally the system's been built on the shed and designed around that, and we can run the cables and everything over to the house. So something that can be done. Cool. Just stop sharing all this. Come back over to here. Oh, so yeah, so we want to offer and just let you know. So from our experience, and we've had a lot of experience from people buying box land all the way through to turn the lights on. Literally, that's what we've done over the last 14 years. Now, after the Lismore floods, for me, rebuilding my business, I thought, what is it that I really love about my job and that I really want to do? And I love the whole process, from the start of buying the block of land through to installing. That's why we're moving to more that consulting role. So moving forward, we're not supplying any products to any customers. So if you are a customer who's been watching this and got a quote out at the moment, anyone we quoted, we'll honor those quotes and we'll help supply and install those systems from the contractors that I've got. But moving forward as a business, we're not going to supply any more systems, any products. All our work's going to be consulting and design work. And it's pretty much, there's no different. If you want to contact us and get an off-grid solar system, I can help you with that process and introduce you to the contractor, and they can do the system. And we're just going to really help you design the system. And one of the biggest problems over the years, like for me as a consumer, most of the time when you're buying something, your education you're getting is actually from the person selling you something. That's one of the biggest game changers of off-grid that we want to offer. So if you're looking to buy a solar system, we don't want to sell you any products. We just want to sell you a service that we offer you and hold your hand. So we're going to help you design the best possible solar system that you can. And you can take it out and tender it to off-grid contractors and say, right, this is what I want. This is how much energy I'm going to use per day. And what I've found is when you're an educated buyer, solar off-grid installers tend to want to work with you more. Because if you think about it like this, if you're someone that just has no idea, they're going to absolutely try and charge you a fortune, not because they're intentionally trying to rip you off. It's because they don't deal with the phone calls every day. I've seen so many off-grid designs where the guys put like 30, 40 extra kilowatt hours into a system because that's just what they do, because they don't want the customer calling them, put these big systems up. Because the reality is when you supply someone an off-grid solar system, you become their power company. And people do just pick up the phone and say, Mike, this is not working. I never get paid for that. But I get a lot of phone calls saying this or that, and it's a lifetime relationship is the reality. So a lot of off-grid installers, where if they feel that you're someone that has no education, no understanding, and you're going to be a pain in the ass basically to them, they will charge an absolute fortune so they don't get those phone calls. Well, what I've done over the years, I've really tried to work with people and educate people to show people, like, if you do this and do that, and this has bit me in the backside a few times before, because I've tried to educate people and people go, don't listen to the knowledge and education, and they want to do a really cheap system and try and save money and not willing to compromise basically. So it's something to be really aware of and think about. So if you are looking to buy an off-grid solar system and you're educated, you can tender that process out, and off-grid installers will sort of say, and they'll show you some more respect because they're like, right, this person's done their research. They really understand what they want to do. They understand the system, how it's going to work. They're not going to be that annoying to me. I don't need to charge them. They don't need to charge an absolute fortune, basically, to make sure that you get a system that just works and you don't ever call them and bother them. And that's what a lot of off-grid installers don't want, is those phone calls over the years. So moving forward, as a business, we're offering services. That's what we're selling moving forward. This we really want to understand. So if you want to book a discovery session, so if you do have a project where you're looking to buy a property, or on your property you want to do a project, want access to all your content, where your contour lines, and if you just want to do an in-depth analysis on your property, you can book a discovery session. Now, all discovery sessions, actually, there is a fee to them, and they do change. If you're a customer, you'll receive a discount. If you're one of our off-grid customers over the years and you want to do your existing property, great, you can book a discovery session. And if you attended this webinar, you'll get an extra 30 minutes to say thank you, because like I said, one of the most important things for me is, or valuable things to me, is time, which reminds me, I got to go pick my kids up, basically is time and your attention. So I really want to say thank you for that there. Now, like I said, this is a recording because we did have a bit of a technical issue with the last one, didn't record. So we do have a few questions I just want to quickly cover. Now, some of the things were about what's the best building material to build out of, and that's all going to come down to your personal preferences and also location. I'm a big fan of hemp. I really want to build my forever home out of hemp. Now, that's also going to depend on the location where I build. That might not happen. So it really all becomes down to your personal preferences. Like whether it's traditional build, like there's, as I showed before, the Dixon's Homes build, that's a really energy efficient home, the Dixon Homes build. So something to think about. Just from traditional build. Mud brick, rammed earth. Rammed earth is getting very popular at the moment. A lot of people are doing rammed earth, and there's a lot more people doing hemp and things like that. So that was a question that came up from there. Electric vehicles, another question. I've been working with a lot of real estate developers, and I'm highly recommend people that rather than try and put a cheap solar system up and tick a box, I'm saying to real estate developers, pre-wire the house for battery ready, which can be quite simple to do. Because once the house, if everything's stripped, it's really easy to do that stuff rather than after the fact once the house is built. Make sure property's got 3-phase. You just think this is not 100% accurately true, but think about it like this. If you've got single phase in your electric car, 3-phase, you can charge your car 3 times faster, basically. So that's pretty much the understanding of 3-phase. But yeah, being highly recommended. A couple of questions had before about EV chargers is if you are going to do a development, make sure you put an EV charger or plan if you're going off grid to charge your system. Now, we not a customer, we supply an off grid solar system. I thought the guy was quite mad when he told me what he brought and designed. I just helped him with some smarts on a charger, and he was off grid, got these smarts working, and he had a Tesla Model 3. They did about 30 kilometers a day, and they lived on a 5 kilowatt solar inverter. And they had about 3 kilowatts of solar PV, so it wasn't much there at all. So they did that. So they were 2 questions. And the other question we had pop up from before from the webinar that I answered that was about solar hot water. Now, I'm actually not a big fan of solar hot water in an urban environment. I'd much prefer to use a product called a Catch Relay. I would much prefer, and this is probably the easiest, simplest way I think about it, is solar hot water is actually too good for its own boots. It's too good. Because the solar hot water will get hot for about 2 hours. Your hot water's hot, it's done and dusted. And then you've taken up that roof space and it's doing nothing. So I would rather put solar panels there and use a product. It was an Australian product called Catch Relay. Go to the website called Catch Power. It's a product that you can use there, and you could use that to make your hot water smarter. So if it says excess solar going to the grid, with that Get Local Volts. So if you getlocalvolts.com, there is certain times of the day if you're using that product where you actually get paid to use energy, and it is the other ways around. If you're feeding energy back to the grid, you're getting charged. So, but Catch Relay can really help you that if energy is free or cheap, you can heat your hot water up for nothing or get paid to heat your hot water, which is pretty cool. So there are a couple of questions that we had from the last one there. So, guys, like I said, really appreciate if you want to follow us. YouTube's sort of been our thing over the years. That's been the really easiest thing for me to manage and maintain. I'm actually starting to use Instagram. So I'm not a real big Facebook fan. I don't use Facebook much at all. Instagram, I'm going to start doing a lot of stuff on Mike at the Off Grid Coach. If you really want to follow us there, jump onto Mike at the Off Grid Coach and you can follow us on that there. So, you'll be able to follow us on Mike at the Off Grid Coach on Instagram for any updates and things like that. And we'll be doing a lot of stuff there on short videos on energy efficiency and just things to do and things to think about every single day. So cool. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate this and your time and your attention. If you've got this, if you've got any friends or family you want to share this with, feel free. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you.